All right, we will call today's meeting of the Housing, Urban Development and Zoning Committee to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Sanye.
Present.
Alderman Browning.
Present.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Here.
We have 5 present. You have a quorum.
Great, okay, with that, I will accept the motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, June 20th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
Righty. With that, I would like to call Alderwoman Keys up to be recognized on Board Bill 77.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, the HUD's committee. Introducing Board Bill number 77. This board bill is for a student housing complex to be built, I think on Laclede. This housing project is not asking for TIFs. They are independently paying for everything on their own. The only thing that is needed is the zoning change for this particular development.
Okay, great. Would you like for her to read the summary? Just for the
Absolutely.
Okay.
Would you read the summary?
Board Bill number 77, introduced by Alderwoman Laura Keys. An ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on June 14, 2023 to change the zoning of property as indicated on the district map from the J Industrial District to the H Area Commercial District in City Block 3919.03, which is 3800, 38 through 3802 through 04, and 3808 Laclede Avenue, so as to include the described parcels of land in City Block 391903 and containing an emergency clause.
Okay, great. And I see you have one speaker, Mr. Jeff McGee from St. Louis Design Alliance. If you want to come up, you'll have to get sworn in by the clerk and then give us a description of the project as well.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay. So just a little description about this project. Like Alderwoman Keys said, this is primarily going to be an apartment building for students. There's a big draw and a need for these students from SLU. They're really scrambling to look for places to put them, and they have partnered with Spitzberg Lassen and Tailwind, which is a company that focuses specifically on student housing. As Alderwoman said, they have secured financing and are not asking for any kind of money from the government at all, just need help getting the zoning changed over. Right now, it is industrial, which was the primary focus in that area, but that has since started to pivot towards commercial and residential. So we've worked a lot with the zoning department, and they've recommended that area commercial, which is actually one of the sites that we're going to consolidate, is already zoned that, and that's what all of the surrounding zoning is as well. And it fits the neighborhood direction that everyone's going for. The MRC is on board, and we have supporting letters from all of the neighbors. Is there any questions that you guys have about the building?
Yeah, I'll go through and see if any of the committee members have any questions. I remember this project in the Planning Commission, and it got a lot of good support there when the group was there to present on it. So congratulations on this again. I know you guys are filling in a gap where there's definitely a need. Alderman Cone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also serve on the Planning Commission, so already familiar with the project, but can you maybe just explain, well, one, you used a couple acronyms in there, and just for general public consumption, it's always nice to know what those acronyms mean. But the project itself, you mentioned student housing. Can you do just run through the breakdown of number of units?
Yeah.
The, proportion of bedrooms, for, those units. retail on the first floor, if there is any, do you have prospective tenants? All of that would be helpful as well.
Yes, so first floor is going to be space for the tenants to be able to use as well. So there's going to be a lobby like most of these types of buildings have, but it's going to be street-facing tenant space. They're working on a prospective tenant right now, which we don't feel like is going to be difficult to fill that space. It's going to be pretty prime, and there's going to be a large base to be able to utilize that up above. So 314 units and 658 beds for the students. We'd actually started off with nearly half that, and the demand was actually double, so we ended up increasing the building by quite a bit to be able to get that to fit in there. And there's also an amenity deck and public spaces up above what we call the podium level as well. The acronym MRC, is that the one?
Yeah, that was
Sorry,
one of them.
Midtown Redevelopment Corporation.
Which is the SLU 353, for those of you that aren't familiar.
Yes, sorry for the acronym. So yeah, commercial on the first floor, and then we have parking below, so we're not expecting to utilize a lot of street parking. Then it's going to be students walking across the street to the campus, so vehicular traffic should be relatively low. The units are going to be fully furnished, so these students are going to mostly be abroad, so coming here really with a suitcase is the target audience we're trying to reach. So not coming with a car, just walking across the street. The units are fully furnished. They're not really coming with anything. So we're not looking to use any of that.
Can you, and we talked a little bit about this in the Planning Commission as well, so units are fully furnished. How many of them are 2 and 3 bedroom units versus 1 bedroom?
I think our primary, I don't have this off the top of my head, it's kind of fluctuating as we're still working through some of the design elements, but a little bit more than half, I think, is 2 bedrooms is what we're really focusing on, and then the next set is 1 bedrooms and then 3 bedrooms in priority, or I guess in volume.
And then just from a restroom perspective, the restrooms, because often when you talk about student housing, people start to think of communal bathrooms and things of that nature. Can you just explain that a little bit as
So
well?
we have, for every bed, there is a bathroom. So people aren't having to share bathrooms. It's just, it cuts down, it makes it a lot more marketable, especially when you're sharing space with a roommate in college.
Yeah, also makes the property more attractive in the event that that use doesn't work out down the line.
Exactly, so it's still at market rate.
And then you mentioned not a lot of the students that'll be using the property are going to be having cars and things of that nature. Did you still have to adhere to the city's parking minimums for off-street parking?
So that's going to be one of the variances that we plan to go for instead of the 1-to-1 that we're looking at. I think we're at 0.5 is
Okay.
relative ratio that we're at.
So will there be a garage that's part of the development project, or is that going to be
Below
a
the
surface
commercial,
parking lot?
yeah. No, it's all below grade underneath the building, so it'll be concealed.
Great. And we're not just putting up another parking lot somewhere in the city?
Well,
Okay.
we are, but it's under the building.
Under a parking garage versus a surface parking lot. And you indicated you're not going to be seeking any type of subsidies, incentives, et cetera, from the city with respect to this project. So this will probably be the only time that you come before at least this body within city government. So I do want to, just commend you all on the work that you've done putting this project together. Very exciting to see this happen and support St. Louis University and their growth here in our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Thank you so much. Can you tell me?
Yes,
Oh,
sorry.
you're fine. Can you tell me how tall this building will be?
I think it's 158 feet, yes.
And is
tall.
that a much 12 stories, so much taller than the buildings around it, or?
It's, well, relative to the buildings around it, I think we're 4 to 5 stories taller. But in the broader area, there are buildings going up right across the way that are going to be taller than the building that we're putting up.
And is it a vacant lot now or something?
Correct, yes, it
Okay.
is a vacant lot right now.
Yeah, I looked at the Google Maps and the picture that's in there is pretty funny. It's like 2 people and a dog
Yep.
look like rooting
with
around.
some
It's
with some
just like,
concrete barriers.
geez, what is happening here?
Not too attractive right now, and we'd
Yeah.
really like to put a well-used building there.
It's exciting to think about what the area will look like when this building is there.
Yes.
So I wish you the best of luck. And Alderman Cohn, as always, asked all the great questions. So I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Right? Alderman Browning.
I think my colleagues asked all the questions I had. This looks like a good project, and looking forward to seeing it happen.
Right, Vice Chair Sanye.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but what did you say the prices of the units would be?
Prices of the units, I do not know that yet. So I don't think
Oh, you're
that's
still
been
figuring that
set
out?
at the moment, but it's going to be to serve all the students of SLU.
Okay. And you mentioned the SLU's 353, that's what it's in that area?
Yes, it is in that area. So that's one of the first groups that we went to go meet with, to make sure that we had their approval, and it was meeting SLU's needs since they kind of head that up on that end. So that's the Midtown Redevelopment Corporation.
Okay.
Right, Alderman Cohn has one more question.
Well, I have
Oh,
more than
take
one.
your time.
But, so kind of leaning into that, the MRC, the Midtown Redevelopment Corporation, the SLU 353, they have the ability to grant tax incentives. So are you planning on asking them for incentives for this project?
No.
Okay. That's a bit of a contentious issue at the moment with SLDC, the mayor, myself. I think that when that was passed, we could have done a better job. And then more on a kind of aesthetic perspective. So building construction materials that are being used, the building that would be just to the south of you, the standard building, I always joke that it should never be used as the standard for building of any sort in the city of St. Louis, because it was really just incredibly unconforming with the surrounding area. So to that end, what are you planning on using? Is it going to be concrete construction, steel construction, lumber, and then just the general facade? Is it glass, brick, stone?
So glass and brick is primarily what we're going to have the building built out of. And that's what you're going to see on the outside. And the first couple levels up to what we call the amenity deck is going to be concrete structure, because it's going to be holding cars behind it. So that's going to have to be pretty substantial. So it'll be concrete, but it'll be clad with brick on the outside, and then it'll be steel structure from there going up. And all that's going to be clad in brick with the possibility of a material up top that looks like brick when you get up to like the 10th and 11th floor, when you really can't visually see some of that. So where that delineation line is going to be is still being determined at this point.
But it's not going to be that like 1940s siding that looks like brick. No, I'm kidding. I know you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I can
Some of
assure
us
you of
still
that.
have those on garages in our alleyway. Wonderful. That's all the questions that I had. I appreciate your time again this morning or this afternoon, and thank you for investing in the city, and even more so with not asking for incentives.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
And one more from Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. Do you have an estimate of how much this project will cost?
The client's still working some of that out right now, so we're getting an estimate from the contractor, and we should know that soon. So
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. With that, I'll bring Alderwoman Keys back up. Recognize you to close.
Thank you again, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I would request a due pass recommendation on Board Bill number 77.
Right.
I move that we pass Board Bill number 77 out with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
Did we? Oh, yeah, we did.
All right, seeing no objection, congratulations. Alderwoman Keys on your passing Board Bill 77. Congratulations to you all as well. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
See you at karaoke tonight.
And I don't know, people at home can't see it, but I really like your earrings. I don't know if STL TV is getting all of that in there, but they're cute.
All right, so we don't have any resolutions for review, but we do have a committee discussion, and I'll recognize Alderman Browning on leading us in that discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for entertaining this today. This should be a very quick and easy item. We simply are vetting Anthony Robinson for a seat on the Board of Adjustment for the city. Mr. Robinson is an accomplished architect. He lives in the Central West End, has been a resident of the city for all his life, we'll put it that way. And he has served on the Preservation Board with distinction for many years. I myself have witnessed him in action on that board and think he always brings very thoughtful comment and is very aware of the codes and the laws that govern our cities. So I think this is an excellent appointment, but today we are just making sure that he is fully vetted before we name him. So if you have any questions, he is here, but with that, I'll turn it over to the board.
All right. Mr. Robinson, you want to come on up? And the clerk will swear you in, and then we'll see. We'll let you open up, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Yeah, Anthony Robinson, graduate of WashU School of Architecture, been a commissioner for the Preservation Board now.
Mic down a little bit, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Next month will be my 20th year on that board, so. Pretty much it, unless you guys have questions for me.
Yeah, I too, thank you for your service and have witnessed, as Alderman Browning said, your commitment and how you served. Didn't know it was 20 years. That's awesome. So again, thank you. And again, thank you for your willingness to serve on this board, right? I'll say, just for the public that might be watching, can you just give a brief example of what you all see or what you all do in the committee, in the board, I'm sorry?
The Preservation Board. So we review projects in historic districts in the city of St. Louis. Board meeting actually last night that went late. Everything from new construction to rehabs, porch additions, roofing, doors, windows, pretty much anything the governmental body for the city cannot approve comes before the board for approval.
And how often do you all meet?
We meet once a month. The requirement's once a month. We have previously met more than once a month, but typically once a month, depending on schedule.
Absolutely. And I've asked that purposely so that the public can know, again, this is a commitment that you make to the city of St. Louis with your unique skill set, not only with your wealth of knowledge, but also with your love of the city and your lifelong being resident of the city. It makes a difference too, so thank you again. So Alderman Cone?
Thank you. I want to take a moment, one, to recognize your service. It's incredible when we have citizens that are engaged with city government to the extent that you are, and certainly doing it for 20 years is a testament to your commitment to our city, which is quite incredible. I do want to just note part of the reason that you're here today was one of our colleagues and had indicated that this board, in particular, the Board of Adjustments, which we're reviewing your qualifications for, is a citywide board. And there has been concern in the past about kind of geographical representation on citywide boards, having not enough north of Page or not enough from Southeast City, or I think oftentimes some of these boards end up getting filled with people who are often in that central corridor. And so I need to call that out because it is something that we do struggle with as a city, is getting that geographical representation, and especially with, like the Board of Adjustment, which is hearing cases from all over the city, not just from areas that might be in a conservation area or a historical district. So literally every single corner of our city gets touched by the Board of Adjustments. So I would like to just hear your take on the Board of Adjustments and its role, sometimes this is a learning curve for residents that are joining these boards and commissions as well, and that's okay too. But I will say, as an older person, and I think probably some of my colleagues, although some of them are a little bit newer than me, we've had challenges with the Board of Adjustments in the past, not necessarily myself, but I know some of my colleagues with respect to, I'll just throw out like convenience stores in particular. They seem to be, a hot topic most of the time, but Board of Adjustments would typically, work with enforcement of conditions and or placing conditions on properties that are non-conforming use within a particular area. Typically we get asked to provide letters of support in those situations, but I heavily rely upon my neighborhood residents, but they're not always able to make it at the designated time and place for the hearings, which usually take place, I think, on Wednesdays at 1 or something to that extent. How would you view your role, at the Board of Adjustments in terms of listening to community input into what happens with your decision-making process?
That alderman is a good question. Let's back up though. So I will say that I designed and built my house, which is in the Central Corridor, but I grew up on the north side of St. Louis and lived there until I went away to college. So very familiar with the north side of St. Louis. Parents, well, my mom passed 2 years ago, but prior to that, they lived on the north side, and so I am still in touch with families in our neighborhood. So I don't think me currently living in the Central Corridor affects how I feel about the north side of St. Louis. And in fact, the fact that I decided to stay in St. Louis and build is a testament to how I feel about the city. Obviously, neighborhood input is important in making our final decision. The Board of Adjustment's obviously a little different than the Historic Preservation Board, and often in those cases, I know we have neighbors that come in and give their opinions, but ultimately we are bound by a set of rules, and so while their opinions are important, ultimately we are following what the code requires, with a few exceptions. So I would say that the way I would handle this is the same way I've done on the Historic Preservation Board.
Great, thank you. And then, oh, sure.
I want to note that the current Board of Adjustment does have several members, and it does currently have 2 members from the Central West End, but it also has members from Benton Park, Academy, Princeton Heights, Jeff Vanderloo, Lindenwood, and Anthony would be a third member from the Central West End. Part of the requirement of being on the Board of Adjustment is a deep knowledge of architecture, and it's not really a coincidence that a lot of architects choose to live in the Central West End either, because of its historic nature. Of course, I also think Mr. Robinson has worked on projects across the city, have you not? Extensive, and I think it's listed in the resume that I sent you all, the different projects he's worked on. So lots of experience there, and again, I've seen his commitment to, especially hearing from the input from the neighborhoods when he's been on the preservation board.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Alderman. I certainly, think that he has the requisite qualifications to serve on the commission and, or board rather, and, certainly think that you could spend probably another 20 years of service on the Board of Adjustments next, and who knows what after that. But I guess my last question, it's a kind of two-part question. Are you filling a vacant position on the Board of Adjustments, or are you assuming a new term on the Board of Adjustments? And then kind of secondary to that, have you served in any other capacities on boards and commissions in the city, aside from the Preservation Board as well?
So part two of that is no. The Preservation Board is the only board that I've served on. And part one, I believe that I am filling a vacancy.
Okay. So not the full term of, or? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I think you're eminently qualified for my part, and I would encourage my colleagues to also vote in the affirmative to support your candidacy and nomination. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here. So I'm on the Board of Adjustment page on the city website, and I do notice that everyone serving on that has an expired term. I also, for the public, just want to read what this board does, because I think it's important to kind of set that piece of information. So the board hears appeals for any person aggrieved by any officer, department, board, or bureau of the city affected by any decision of the building commissioner or the Board of Public Service. Board of Adjustment decisions are binding by law and may be appealed only to the circuit court. Yes, and then it says the fee to appeal can be found in the fee schedule within the City of St. Louis zoning ordinance. So that gives kind of the information about what this board does. So your goal here is to hopefully be on this board and no longer be on the Preservation Board? Or in addition?
The capacity would be both boards.
You'd be on both boards?
Yes.
So you're not sick of working with Richard Callow yet? Just kidding. I've worked with him for a decade, so anytime I can get a burn on him on STL TV, I will do. I will make sure he sees this later.
Yeah, that's funny. And probably definitely Richard and I are the longest serving.
Yes.
Yeah, Richard's funny.
He is very funny, yeah. So thank you for entertaining my joke. I do really appreciate your interest in this, because I've had situations with the Board of Adjustment where, and I appreciate your comments about following the laws and what's been set out by ordinance, and how rarely the Preservation Board deviates from that.
Yeah.
I've been in situations in my ward, and a very concerning one recently, where the neighborhood actually did end up filing an appeal with the court because the person came and testified that they never heard from me, they never heard from the neighborhood. Meanwhile, in the folder, there's a letter against the project from me, a letter against the project from the neighborhood. I have an email thread with this person saying I was against it. And they just believed it and granted the appeal. And now we're in a position where it's another used car lot business repair shop along Gravois, which has a special use district that specifically prohibits that use, and it's not zoned for it. So there's a special use district that prohibits that use, and it's not zoned for it, and the neighborhood voted against it, and I did, and I told them that I did. And then it was they just said it was, So, how do you make sure that you are looking at the right pieces of legislation when you're making this decision? Or, what kind of process do you take into place that you think you might be able to share with other members of this board? I mean, how do you hope to bring what Preservation Board does and bring it to the Board of Adjustment? If that makes sense.
So it does, and I will tell you that while I am familiar with the Board of Adjustment and what its role is with the city, I can't say that that I am familiar with the workings of it. And so with that, I'm not sure how commissioners are voting, you know, whether it's because of emotion or whether it is due to the law. My votes are always based on law.
I love that. That's great. Okay, I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you coming before us. One of the things that I think is so important is filling not only vacant seats that we have on boards and commissions, but dealing with these expired terms and getting, you know, incredibly qualified folks to fill these seats. Do you feel like you know people in your line of work and folks that you spend time with who you've ever thought about encouraging them to apply? Because I find oftentimes people who might have these expertise tend to know each other. You know, have you ever kind of encouraged someone else to apply for any board or commission in any of these areas?
Yeah, my personal realtor now sits on the Historic Preservation Board, which realtors are, at least one realtor is required. So the answer is yes, I have, and I'm sure once I get an understanding of this board, that there is that possibility as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think having that networking, you know, more people in the city of St. Louis recognizing that these opportunities are available and people who are serving, encouraging people they know to serve too. I think it's really an all hands on deck effort to fill all of these seats. So I appreciate you being here, and I am very grateful for your service to the city of St. Louis. I know it's tough to be on these boards and commissions and to take the public comment and feedback and testimony, and it's even tougher when it's a volunteer role. So thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, Vice Chair Sonia.
I just want to thank you for your service on the board. You know, in my previous role, I was on a board that was volunteer and took a lot of time. And I see all the time. I mean, I tried to talk about like the different boards and things, and it's just, I get it. Sometimes it's hard to find people that just have capacity to do that with the rest of life, because it does take from you. I think my colleagues have already asked most of the questions, so I really just want to thank you for your service and willingness to serve.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, I just want to note, again, I'm glad Alderman Cone brought that up, and I brought this up in a meeting in the full board, that I know that some people use those discussions when it's valuable to their side of something or their agenda on a specific item, but for me, I wouldn't care where you lived in the city of St. Louis. If somebody like you stood up and answered the call, I would want you on the board, and I'm being 100%. And these lines move and get manipulated again when they want to. So, you know, I think it's better that we take this part of the process, have more value in this part of the process, learning the person's position and commitment to this service rather than just writing them off because they live in a certain area or a certain neighborhood. So thank you again for your service. And I hope that my colleagues will join again us, like Alderman Cone said, in supporting you with the vote for you to be reappointed for this board. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Should we make the motion to vote on this nomination?
To accept this nomination?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I move that we accept the mayor's nomination of Mr. Anthony Robinson to the Board of Adjustments and recommend to the full board that his nomination be passed by the full Board of Aldermen.
Second.
Previous role?
All right, no objection. Congratulations to us on behalf of you.
Yes, thank you.
On behalf of you, thank you, Mr. Robinson. All right, any written testimony?
No, ma'am.
Any announcements from committee members? All right, we are all present, so no need for excused members. So with that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. Previous role.
Let's go. Have a good ride.